Load me up, Coach.
Load me up. It's March Madness. It's March 18th, 2021. Welcome aboard. This is the Crushing Iron Triathlon podcast, and we are episode 461.
We are.
I'm firm on that.
All right, I like it. I gotta say that music always does fire me.
It does me too. It kind of hits me. It hits me where it counts. Have you done a bracket yet?
No,
don't even start me like that. I know you're gonna do one tonight because you do this every year. You're like, I guess. It really just kind of, it makes you invest in the games you don't want to be invested in, and it's everything that I hate about America. And then, and then
everything I hate.
And then I ask you, and you're like, "Yeah, I filled out a bracket. I got the Badgers going through the Sweet 16."
I always do that. I haven't filled one out yet.
I'm filling one out today because I do think it makes it fun, and I enjoy it. I mean, I usually suck at them. I usually do pretty good because I tend to be a homer. I think everybody kind of does. Then I'll have the Vols going probably like the Elite 8 or Sweet 16 if we can get past Oklahoma State. But I'll do, and I think it's fun. This is my favorite outside of the Tour de France. I think that's like the best time of year to be on the trainer, even though it's in July, because they're cycling on every single day. The next 2 weeks is also, in my opinion, the best 2 weeks of the year to be on the trainer.
On the trainer, okay.
Yeah, to be on the trainer because it's a iffy time of year. It's a spring. I mean, it's rainy, it's gloomy, it's nasty here in Chattanooga. It's nothing to be outside and have fun about. And if you can get out and you can do your long rides on Saturday or Sunday or even Thursday or Friday, take off a little bit of work and enjoy yourself and hop on the trainer and watch some basketball, you're going to have plenty of opportunities. So I think this is one of my favorite times of year to watch sports.
Got to be on the trainer, though.
Got to be on the trainer.
It's my favorite.
Can't do it outside.
Easily my favorite time of the year to watch sports. When there's fans.
Yeah, I know but you're still going to watch.
I'm going to watch, but it just doesn't have the juice, man.
No, it does.
Like they show those they've been showing like past years and the fans just coming out of the stands and all that kind of stuff. Now they're like 40 rows behind a tarp.
There's one of my favorite scenes of all, like, that I always kind of look for when they do replays of like game-winning shots is not the court. It's like the sold out fans. Yes, like how they
erupt
the bench
and
like go to their feet. Yeah, they just go berserk.
The benches are all spread out.
Yeah, everybody goes to town. But we're going to go to town today, so we appreciate you tuning in. At some point, we'll get away from our team. I know you're a little salty. I'll be the pepper, you can be the salt. It will be a perfect mix, hopefully. But again, welcome aboard. Thanks for tuning in. If it's your first time listening, welcome. We know you have a lot of options in the triathlon podcast universe and just podcasts in general, so we know that your time is valuable, so we appreciate you. Thanks for joining us. We have, as we said, 460 other podcasts backlogged and cataloged and are on iTunes or whatever your podcast listening software or platform you choose to use it there. Mike does an outstanding job of outlining those. You can go in order, you can pick and choose, you can just see what's hitting you hard and feeling it, and go from there. But we talk about it all. We talk about triathlon. We talk about life. We talk about what we're both going through, both personally and in our training, and then the races we have coming up. We're coaches. We're best friends. We're athletes. Just like the rest of you. We're not professionals. We're not experts. We don't claim to be. We're just experienced. We've been through a lot, both on and off the training field of triathlon. And sometimes we'll go deep. We'll deep dive into swim, bike, and run training. Sometimes we'll do race recaps and race previews. Sometimes we even hop into our Facebook group, which is called Crushing Iron Group. If you want to be a part of that, answer one simple question and we'll let you in. Because I feel like that's a low threshold to get in. And some people just don't even bother answering it. And
I know.
Like, hey, I'm not doing it. Sorry, it's a simple question. If you can't follow that rule, what rules can you follow?
I don't know.
And so we'll hop in. There's a lot of awesome people in there to conversations. If you're already in the group, in the community, feel free to chime in, ask questions, and you'll get a lot of feedback from awesome people. We've got, beginners. We have people who haven't even done a triathlon before, to, Ironman champions. So like everybody in between, be a part of it. It's an awesome conversation. Sometimes we'll use kind of the vibe of that community to drive the podcast. But for the most part, we just kind of sit back, relax, have an open, honest discussion about where life is taking us. And that's what we'll do today. We have no sponsors. We have no ads. We have one agenda, and that's to keep you happy and healthy in your endurance sports journey.
Yes, we do. And that's true. When you said that, when you always say it every week about we're not experts.
Yeah, we're not.
And I don't want to let that go because I think, we talk things out and we try to figure out, how to do things the best way. But I am so tired of experts. You know, like,
do you know how few experts there are actually on this planet? There are very, very few experts.
Yeah, there's none, in my opinion.
No experts? I feel like that's.
Here's the thing, right?
We can't be the expert on having no experts.
Yeah, I know. I feel like all I know is that what I know is I don't know anything. You know, I always say that. It's sort of like the more you know, the less you think you know, or whatever. And you know, I remember though, I think it was about 10 years ago. There's this like trend, right, to because YouTube was getting big, and you know, everyone was starting their own business and their own thing, like kind of like we're doing and everything like that. And one of the things that all the marketing geniuses out there would say is you have to establish yourself as an expert in the field, you know. And then it was like all that took was like building a website and, you know, kind of putting some fancy words together and creating a bio that made it seem like you're an expert. And then you have to convince everyone out there that you're an expert and you'll be able to change their lives and whatever. And I really do. I just wanted to say that because I really do appreciate the fact that we kind of like stumble around and noodle around and try to figure things out. And we're kind of like I don't want to say all over the board, but we're willing to kind of look at different angles and stuff. We have our general principles and things like that. And that's a good thing. And I think the reason this is so heavy on my mind is because I'm working with a girl in the club, and she's been really trying to change her life. You know, she's been trying to lose a lot of weight, and we've been going slow, and she's been really great with following the plan and everything like that. And she was really getting inspired. And then she went into like she was excited to like get, you know, more into triathlon. So she went out to buy a bike at a local shop and had a really bad experience at the shop.
Shocker.
And that's exactly what I told her. I mean, these bike shops, I mean,
we're lucky. We have an excellent bike shop in town.
Yeah, and they're cool guys for the most part, but like, man, a lot of these bike shops, dude. I told her, I said, you know, I don't know if I've had very many good bike experiences in my day either. And again, I'm going to wrap it back into this thing. Like, I feel like the expert thing, you know, it's like, so what? You know how a derailleur works. You know, you're going to look down on me for that, or like you're going to say that, you know, whatever. So it's kind of a sidebar, but I think it's important that we have to remember that we're on our own journeys here, and nobody really knows what's best for us. And just because somebody, you know, has a polo on with a logo doesn't mean that they know more than you do about anything. Certainly not your own self.
Knowledge is power, but information is not necessarily power. And I think that is where I think a lot of athletes get themselves into trouble these days, is because there is so much information out there to be consumed via every single platform you can possibly imagine, that we all kind of, not all of us, but like we can tend to feel like we probably know more than we really know, right? Like there are very few things in life that I feel like I really, really, really know, right? You know, like I feel like I have a general, like you said, like you and I both have a very general philosophy about how we coach and how we approach athletes. And we've been doing this, you know, collectively for a very, very long time. But I'm still surprised. Like there are still things that I'm still trying to figure out. There are still things, and there are small little nuances that I change every single year, from, you know, how we approach training or what kind of looks good for each athlete. And then I'm also sometimes just shocked at like how athlete A might respond to something that I didn't expect, or, you know, did really, really well based on this. Like we're always surprised. And I think that's like, that's why I'm kind of glad I'm not an expert, because like I would never be surprised. Like that's exactly how I knew it would be. Like, you know, so it's like we're very much like, you know, I feel like we're not the most famous podcast. We, by any stretch, you know, we're kind of the everyman. You know, like we're the average Joe. You know, we're just kind of figuring out. I feel like we're the voice of the 80%. You know, like we are the. You know, you have the 10% of people who feel like they know it all. You got the 10% of people that feel like they'll never know it all no matter what. And then you kind of got the middle 80. You know, it's kind of like, we're just trying to figure it out. Like sometimes I feel like I know it all. I mean, I'll be totally honest with you. There are some weeks that as a coach, especially when we're going through such like a really long time, a long period of time without racing, and you can do, you know, small events and virtual things, but it's not racing. Okay. Like, and it's because racing, we talked about this, you know, early on Monday. It's like racing requires a specific total skill set within a specific environment that is race day. It's totally different. It's not a virtual event. It is an event with competitors, and it's just a totally different environment. And as a coach, there have been so many weeks or days or periods over the last, 12 to 16 months where I've been like, I wonder if I still know what I'm doing. Honestly, I know, man. I even had this like last Friday, the Thursday or Friday, it ended up being very timely. Like I just felt like, it's early in the season, races are happening. We have athletes that have really awesome results. And then like, for whatever reason, we had a bunch of athletes on their own in our closed active athlete Facebook group. They just kind of posted their own, like, trust the process, I'm getting great results kind of thing. And honestly, I read the first two, I was like, thank God I still know what I'm doing, because there are, like, I have those doubts as a coach because I am concreted in my belief of what I know is generally right for most people, but you're still always trying to figure out, because the athlete that you work with isn't always the same athlete either. So you can't just be like, oh, well, you're always going to love, circles. Well, that's just not true. Then maybe you'll like squares one day. Like, people, especially the last year and a half, like everything has changed for so many people that you kind of doubt. I don't think you doubt what your training or your ability as a coach, but I think that without seeing things, sometimes you're, not the training, not that things are going correctly, not because for the most part, in my opinion, like especially for long course racing, it's all about load management. And if you're keeping your athlete healthy and they're able to be consistent and they're available to do the training that you set out, then they're going to be successful. Like it's very simple. It's not like the training that we do is not complex. It's not, but that's also to the point is like simplicity has become complex because people wonder, like, what else is behind that curtain? What do you mean you're just doing this? What else is that? It's not secret. It's just simplicity has become, the fanciest form. And now fancy stuff has become like, oh, well, of course that's normal. We're going to do 17 different, threshold workouts this week and 19 different this. And like that's not how any of this works, but you just find over and you're like, I really want to see things kind of play out. I really want to see these races happen so these athletes can let this out, and you'll see shining kind of glimmering moments in training. But you do, like, and I know you do as well. Like I want races so bad, not, for our athletes to see these things happen and just see their fitness on display and to have these awesome experiences and reach your goals. But also as a coach, you're kind of like, I really want to make sure this is going the right way. Like you see it because most of it's about load management and how they're handling overall training load. But it is like, it's but I like that feeling, to an extent. Like I like that uncomfortability of like, well, let's just keep tweaking, because it's hard to kind of, that's one of the hardest things is to not tweak. Most people are like, oh, well, I'm going to do this new, different. We have all those friends that like, one year it's like, this, and the other next year it's totally something different. It's always something different. So I don't really know what works. But it is like, like you said, there are very, very, very few experts in the field. And that's why I kind of cringe sometimes when I read even like advertisements or marketing from training software or coaches or articles. It's like, this is what's going to make you faster. This specific one thing, or the 10 best cycling workouts to boost. Like, I know that they're all marketing, but it's bullshit. Like, there is nothing out there that it's just like that for everybody. And the last thing I ever want us to come across as experts, we're just really experienced. What we're probably is we're the, if you kind of looked at us in the triathlon podcast universe or the triathletes, the level of athletes that do, podcasts and how always have, Kona qualifiers or pros on, what we are?
What?
We're the old dudes at the Y playing basketball.
Yeah,
we are those, like, we know the moves. We're the sneaky. We can get the sneaky rebound, and if you leave us alone, we're going to drain that three right in your face. And because
with our knee braces.
Yeah, and you got like the guys that are like 18, 19, like, God, those guys just stuck it to me. Like we got old man strength. That's what we kind of like. We've been around the block. We've experienced it all, and I say this all the time with people. And when I used to hire people, it's like I don't honestly care like what your education was. I want to know what you've done, like what your experience is in life, what you've gone through, because that's how you gain, in my opinion, the most knowledge, the most education is from doing this. I don't have a single solitary coaching certification to my name. I just have 15 years of experience and having worked with hundreds, probably over 1,000 athletes in our time of experience working with all different kinds of people in different ways. And so I love just figuring out. I think it's what makes coaching great. I think it's what makes triathlon wonderful, because as even with races, it's like, I really nailed this workout, but next week I want to do better. So it's like you're always tweaking, you're always looking for things to be different. And But yeah, it's I'm not an expert at much of anything.
Well, and you're not coaching in a vacuum either, you know, and from the get-go, you always talk about it, but like, you know, stress is stress, and life is out there, and it's changing every day. And like, you know, trying to, you know, like if everybody was just a triathlete and they didn't have to do anything else all day, you know, it'd be a lot easier. But there's so many balls to juggle, and it's hard to really know what's going on in everybody's life all the time. You know, people, you know, I'm moody, you know, by every hour. You know, it's like,
are you?
Well, you know, but you know, it's up.
I do know.
It's like things can change. But my point is, I think that you know, there are these 10 fastest ways and to do stuff, and I think that those things can be like short-term fixes. I think that's what happens a lot of times is, you know, yeah, you can get in a right spot and you really can drain something for a month and it may help you then, but it may just put you way behind the 8 ball for the rest of your life or something like that. So I think it's this long-term, you know, if you're not feeling good and energized and kind of happy to be alive every day and you're a triathlete, you're probably doing something wrong, you know, probably overdoing something. Everybody wants to think about volume and doing, and I'm no different. You know, when you get in a groove, you're sort of like, well, let's go 3 hours. That wasn't enough, you know? And then you start going 4 hours, and it's like the end is like never attainable if you take that kind of perspective. But if you think about it in terms of what makes me feel good day to day and what gives me more energy. And like I always say, it's like, you know, exercise or workouts should give you energy, not take it away. I mean, if you just use that as your baseline, that's going to be a pretty good start, I think, you know? And so as a coach, to be on top of that and to truly be able to articulate that to an athlete and communicate it in a way that they're going to go, oh yeah, I didn't, you know, set a PR today on this zone 3 or zone 2 ride, but, you know, I felt great. And I think I'm going to be going forward with a better attitude and everything like that. So anyway, I guess did I hijack a subject from you?
No,
I know that
I thought it was a great subject. You know, I think I like what you said. I mean, I think that's one of the hardest pieces, and it has been one of the hardest parts for not just coaches, but obviously athletes the last year and a half is that, you know, I was kind of having this text conversation with another athlete yesterday about variety. And I always say, like, variety is for the weak. In my opinion, people's love of variety is really just code for short attention span. And that's very true. Like, you know, in society, our attention spans have gotten so incredibly short. Like, most people can't even have like a 4-sentence conversation without, you know, picking up their phone or checking their pocket and like scrolling through Facebook mindlessly without consuming anything. Our attention span just continues to get shorter because there's so many things that we can do. You got your watch going off that you got to email. You got your phone going off that you got to, you know, a Facebook Live. You got your this going off. Like, everything is buzzing and beeping. Like, our attention span is short. And so if you think of athletes and you think of the ones that are like, you know, that do traditional training, which is, you know, for the most part, what a lot of long course athletes do. Like, it's very, 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 very simple, which is for most people super boring, right? Because it's not flashy. There's not a lot of, you know, flashy marketing substance to every single workout. But so the not giving into but I think I'm going to try this. It's rarely ever for athletes, especially triathletes, when there's so many different things they can do, whether it's Zwift racing or hopping on and smashing themselves on Trainer Road or doing something, you know, blatantly irresponsible. It is, not that those things are, but when you do them every single day, they are. It's not so much that you're questioning your training as that you're just struggling with your lack of attention, right, and your lack of focus. Mm-hmm. And it's not so much about trusting the process as it is just just kind of withholding and preventing yourself from just deviating from what you know works just for the sake of a quick high, right? Like a quick training high. Like, you know, things have been going so well. You know what I think I'm going to do? I think I'm going to go run 25. You know, where things are going really well, so I thought I'd go do that. Like, famous last words. Like, that's never anything, you know, I've been doing really well. I've been doing this, so I thought I'd go do this. And then you're like, that's like, you never want to start out any kind of conversation like that. And, you know, in terms of, you know, how things people love to be complicated. Like, this is Elise, who's you know, we've been friends with Elise for a long time. exceptional athlete. She actually sent me this text like 3 seconds ago, but then also one yesterday, and she titled it, "It's Not Complicated." And it's actually a pic, I think an image from Hal Higdon's marathon. I guess it's a Facebook page or whatever. He says, tip of the day. At the 1896, okay, this is the 1800s, Olympic Games, a Belgian runner was entered in the 100 meters and the marathon. When reporters quizzed him as to how he could train for two such diverse events, he said, "I run a short distance at a fast pace one day and a long distance at a slow pace the next day. Really, training is that simple. And while I applaud everybody for trying to analyze their training using my app, with the Hal Higdon app, I think, and performance charts, sometimes you simply need to get out and run. Get your heart rate up to 89% a couple days a week, do a lot of running at 60 to 70% most of the rest of the week, and once a week, throw in something in between. Oh, and don't forget to take a day off or two. Training is not complicated unless we make it complicated." And that has become like the most popular sell job, sales. It's like how people just think, oh, well, it looks really, it must work, right? It's like, no, but like things continue to get more complicated because the farther we get from simplicity and how simple training should be is the thing before it. If it seems less complicated, we have to make this look even more complicated to make it sell worthy, right? In order to, because you can't mimic or copy what was, previously just slightly less complicated. No one's gonna be like, all right, listen, I'm coming out with a new book. Okay, it's the triathlon's best kept training secret, and it is train in zone 2 for the most of the time, and then the rest of the time, train pretty hard. The end. You're like, it's a New York Times bestseller. Like, no one's going to buy that book because because it's too simple, right? No, that makes too much sense. Like, there's got to be more to it. There's got to be something else out there. Like, I see all these numbers in Training Peaks. They have to be the hologram. I'm like, it's just because there's more information doesn't mean it's applicable, and it doesn't mean that it's what you should, bury yourself in and making things right. Like, and that honestly is like, and again, like this isn't, we kind of go back to like, we're not experts, and we're probably not the best salesmen. It's like most athletes that I talk to before I work with them, I'm like, listen, like none of this is rocket science, right? Like none of this is
funny.
I know, it's like none of this is, it's not like, listen, you're never going to understand, like what we're doing, and just don't try to understand because it's too, it's too hard to wrap your mind around. It's just really complex. No, I'm like, listen, it's very, very simple. Like this is nothing we do is secret. Nothing we do is rocket science. It's about load management. It's about doing things the right way. It's about being consistent and then keeping you healthy, and then just kind of keeping a tab on how you're doing. Like, it's not that, I know it's like, it's the spiciest, most, marketable coaching platform ever. It's like had a guy email me that I used to work with who actually extremely courteous email and was like, "Hey, I just wanted to let you know that I was kind of going back and, I used one of your old workouts, and I just wanted to make sure that was okay with you. Like, is that the right thing to do? Because it's technically your intellectual property." And I was like, dude, go for it. Like, A, who cares? B, that'd be the same thing as like every chef in the world walking down the ingredients. I'll be like, "I'm sorry, you can't use that. I've used that in my famous dish."
Yeah.
Like, what? That's called salt. No, yes, everybody. It's not about the ingredients. It's about how much and when and how you use them and to what temperature. It's so much more than, but we try to make things so much more difficult because if we feel like it's fancy or it's too hard or it's, it's pre-programmed, and like that means it's better, but it's not. It's like some of the best athletes in the world still operate off a spreadsheet and just a Timex watch. They don't care about anything else because it's about the work. It's about listening to your body. Just because you see numbers, just because you see gadgets doesn't mean it makes you better. And if you want to question that, scroll back 30 years, right, and look at the Ironman, Kona World Championship times from the best people on the planet, and look how little things have changed from a percentage standpoint from guys that rode the most non-aero road bikes with regular helmets and, a Speedo and a like a wife beater and a Timex watch with no heart rate, no power meter, no data. They just kind of worked off a freaking legal pad, right? Yet they're faster than 99.9% of the people out there who spend $20,000 a year on gadgets and stare at their, analytics on Training Peaks. It's like, yeah. And they just kind of just listened to their body and did what they feel was right. And that's how most training should be. Does it feel right? And if it doesn't feel right, don't automatically just wipe the slate clean. Like, you know what? I've got to reinvent the wheel. Like, things aren't working. sleep on it, see what happens the next day, address things, because oftentimes, like, you know, this we talk about all the time, like the human body is insane. Like it does incredible things if you treat it the right way. And so it's just, it doesn't have to be that complicated. It can be so simple, and which is art. Like, you know, selling things that are simple is not the way you sell, like I said, it's not the way you sell things anymore. It's like, it's just, you have to be complicated. You have to be complex. It has to seem special in order to be something that you can actually sell.
Well, the hard part, right, is that the best things in life are free. And we always believe that. It's be like selling oxygen. You know, it's like that's the one thing you need.
I'm going to sell you free. Tap water.
No, what's so funny is, dude, before this podcast, last night actually had this, sometimes I'll be trying to think of topics or whatever. And the one topic I came up with last night, and I was thinking, I want to call this podcast this and see if it happens. And the title I came up with is "This Isn't Rocket Science."
Perfect.
And
we're always in the same wavelength.
We are, man. It was like I could tell it was going down that path, and I'm really happy to hear that. I mean, let's face it. You know, like people, you know, we talk a lot about recovery on this podcast because of what you went through and everything. And let's face it, man. I think modern day society is like because of everything that's happened and the fastness and the pace and everything like that. We've all kind of we all deal with that addict now, you know, whether it's the phones and the things like that. It's like, and we talk about workouts and things like that. And there's this weird sensation I get a lot where, you know, I just did a workout and I feel good, you know, like if I do a easy run or something like that, or easy bike or any kind of, but man, how do I feel better? You know, it's like that trigger flips. It's sort of like, I feel good, man. It's like I talked about before. It's like, man, that cup of coffee made me feel awesome. Give me a couple more of those.
Yes, right,
whatever.
yeah.
And I think that's the sort of mentality that creeps into training over a long time. It's like, yeah, you just had a pretty solid week there. And they're like, yeah, you know, that's why. And I joked at the beginning about load me up, coach. It's sort of like that becomes the thing. And because it's sort of like, man, I feel really good, but how do I feel really better? Well, sometimes you just got to settle
doing the same thing that you've been doing.
Right. I mean, like, I guess what I'm trying to point out here is like, sometimes, don't you know what I'm saying? Is like, you can, like, I think it's an uncomfortable feeling a lot of times for people to feel good because it's sort of like, how you know? I don't know, pretty good. I feel good. What should we do? You know, like,
what else should we do? Things are too good.
Yeah. Like I gotta either make myself feel not this good or feel better, you know, sort of like I need to pound my body and like be suffering a little bit, or I just need a higher high, you know.
All my friends are really, really sore.
So it's
they're taking 10 ice baths on Sunday and they're sitting in their compression boots for 5 hours the next day. And they ran 100, they biked 120 and they've already ran 15. Like, I'm way behind. They said they are smashed.
Yeah.
So I think I need to be smashed too. Like, who invented that? Like, no one does that. I mean, I know people do, which is unfortunate, but that's not really how it's supposed to work. Like, you shouldn't ever feel smashed. Honestly and personally, for myself as an athlete, if I find myself feeling or close to the edge of smashed during a workout, you know what I do? Stop. Like,
yeah, I know, that's what I'm saying.
Feel
too.
This way, like Monday, I hop on the bike.
That swim killed me. Why didn't you just stop?
Yeah, like, you know, it's supposed to, like, things are supposed to be hard, but not shred you for days and days and days, right? And so, like, Monday, I had a session. I had it scheduled for 2 hours, and I had some pretty gnarly, a longer 25-minute interval in there, and I struggled to get through the interval. I mean, I made it, and I hit the number I wanted to, but after that, I still had, like, I think 25, 30 minutes to, I think I was doing like an hour and a half, and I wanted to go 2, and I stopped at an hour and a half. I cut the last bit there. I was like, I just didn't feel right. Like, it took way too much out of me.
Yeah, you can see it.
And I was like, could you? Like, did you walk by me on Monday and think,
I could see it in your eyes, yeah.
Yeah, cool. I was like, this doesn't feel right. This is too much. You know, maybe not too much.
You give me this look like.
But I was like, yeah, I was hurting. But I was like, you know, what's the next 30 going to do? Is it going to help me? Nah. Is it going to hurt me? Maybe, you know, or is it just kind of going to be a wash and I'll be better off just kind of getting up? So I just got off. I cut it 30 minutes short. I got a yellow in Training Peaks. And then I was like, let me see when I wake up the next day, you know, and then I got on the bike, you know, yesterday after I swam and probably felt the best on the bike that I felt in like 2 weeks. My heart rate was low. I was feeling really good. I felt strong. I was like, yeah, I wouldn't have done that if I'd have kept going yesterday. Like, the point is to be able to do it and then continue to do it. It's not to feel smashed. It's not to wreck yourself. It's not to, or deprive yourself from, what you're supposed, cutting calories short or nutrients. It's like, you got to take care of yourself and set yourself up for success. And that's not about like, I don't know why we got into this society of you get applauded for the less that for sleeping less. You get applauded for, eating just this kind of diet. You get applauded for working 70 hours a week. You get applauded for smashing yourself again all in your run today. Like, I don't applaud any of that. Like, that's not healthy. That's not, like, moderation is pretty awesome. But we've gone to, like, the extreme and everything because being distracted is what most people are efficient at right now, is just being distracted and always wanting to introduce new things into what they're doing. But, like, things really, really are simple. Like, you went, like, going back to, I know we've touched on this before, but going back to the point you made about being in recovery, it is kind of like simple, right? It's like, in terms of, like, for the most part, if you follow, if you're in AA or you're trying to get sober or whatever, you're trying to go clean or whatever it is, like, whatever your vice is, because a lot of people say, like, if you could take the big book and you can rework, you could make it not Alcoholics Anonymous, you can make it Phone Anonymous or Facebook Anonymous or Gambling Anonymous or Narcotics Anonymous, all the things that they have, like, and if you just follow the simple guidelines, like the principles in there, then it can truly change your life, and you can. But you read it, and myself, the first time I was like, I was like, this is too simple. Like, this is not like what, like, I've been struggling mightily for, my life in a lot of these ways. And then obviously, like, the last period of, before I got sober, I was like, so you're telling me that I just got to do these things, and then my life is going to drastically change, and I'll be totally different. Obviously, you go to therapy and do all these things and whatever. But, like, I remember thinking, like, that sounds way too simple, right? And, like, because I think we try, and, like, even, and there's nothing wrong with it at all with going to, treatment and rehabilitation centers that are really nice, right? Like, I do kind of laugh when I see, like, the passages in Malibu commercials that are like, I'm like, I've never been to an all-inclusive, like, resort that's that nice, and, like, you can lay by the pool and do these things. But when I got to the ranch, which is where I went, it was in the middle of nowhere. You stayed in, like, it was kind of like a cabin with, like, 14 other dudes. You like gotta make your own food. You make the grocery list. Like, you have to be on time. Like, very strict. No TVs, no phones. I got to call you, like, once every 2 weeks maybe, and talk for, like, 10 minutes on a rotary phone. Like, it was very limited. And I was like, where's the gym? Like, thinking, like, I wanted to work out. And they're like, I mean, we have a gym, but you can only go, like, once a week. And I was like, why? Of course, I was like, that's dumb. Like, I want to stay in shape. Like, I'd been killing myself for 5 years drinking, copious amounts of alcohol. And they're like, well, just because we want you to stay focused. Like, we want you to keep the point, on point, which is just you getting better. I was like, this is ridiculous. And after 2 weeks, I was like, okay, I get it. Because just working on you was hard enough. It's like you didn't have any energy or anything else, but it was like they wanted to remove every bit of distraction. They removed, obviously, your computer. You didn't have access to, Facebook. You didn't have it, you turned your cell phone in. You didn't touch it. You had no access to any of that. You had a specific number of people you were allowed to call, right? They had to be, like, vetted. Like, it can't be like, an ex or, like, a toxic person that's going to help you, right? They wanted to limit everything that you did so you could maximize your ability to be successful, which was you were the one to be. They wanted you to be successful. And so if I go back and I look at it, I think, like, it was really simple. But I think about the fact that I did these things for 90 days, and then I think about, like, all the different things I had to go through in life, the first, like, year, 2 years, 3 years after I was sober, and all the hardships I had and the obstacles and the huge life stretches that I had. I used the same principles and guidelines for all of them. I didn't think, you know what, this got me through my last one. You know what I probably need to do this time? Really? I probably need to do something different, right? Because just because it worked last time, I probably need to redo it because this one's harder. But instead, I didn't really know better, but I was like, I'm going to keep doing the same thing over and over again. And while it seems impossible, like, I remember, going to my first meeting on, like, a Wednesday, and I was like, this guy or something, like, I'm, 5 or so, I remember thinking, that seems impossible to me. Like to go from like, I'm 72 hours sober to be like, how in the hell do you get to that point? 5 years, right? And then you hear people talk and they're like, you just do this every single day. Like, and like, you're like, what? That's, you know, that's not it. You got to do something else different. That just seems too simple. And then next thing you do, you wake up and you're like, I was having this conversation the day and I was like, it just seems impossible to make it that long, but you just do like these simple things. And not saying that's getting sober and staying sober isn't hard, because it is, but the greatest things in life and like most things in life are, I think, like you and I talked about at the beginning of the podcast, like we have our core principles and our core philosophy of how we coach, and we stick to it, you know, that 80 to 85, 90%, but it's the 10% that you make it personable to the athlete, but you don't ever want to degenerate enough to where you're like, well, we're only going to apply 30% of it to this, because the proof is in the pudding, right? For athletes and success and people. And it's just very hard to not deviate and think, well, I've gotten too good, or I've gotten, you know, I've been in this game for too long. I think I need to change it up, because that's usually when your distraction or your need for variety kind of gets you in trouble.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And as a coach, it's easy to kind of fall into that trap too. You know what I mean? Like I'm sitting here putting these, you know, zone 2, zone 1, kind of easy stuff for the most part. I'm plugging these things in, and I'm always looking for that, you know, zone 2 run with a couple pops, you know, or like, you know, something that's a variety, which I think is fine, because I like that principle. It's just as long as you don't overdo it. And I always talk about kind of finding the edge of zone 3 a little bit, you know, just to kind of, you know, remind your muscles or your body like a little bit like, hey, we do want to go faster, but like, we're not going to do that right now. Just it's sort of like, I was talking about my shoulder injury, right? It's, and I was interested talking to my friend this weekend, and we were talking about, she's a doctor, and how, like, if you have an injury, what happens to the muscles around that injury? Like if you have a tendon, inflammation or something going on, the muscles around that body naturally start shutting off and atrophying, because they don't want to make the injury worse by flexing, and that's usually where the problem is. So what happens is your pain becomes, like in my case, I think it's become the muscles around my little inflammation or pinch or whatever it is have become dormant a little bit, so I have to work them back up, and in that process they become a little bit sore. So it's this weird thing about like kind of reminding yourself that, you know, you don't want to push things too far, right? And there's always this natural thing inside. And I think our body innately knows what's right for us if we just listen to it. And, you know, and ultimately I think we just want to be comfortable in our own skin. And that is, to me, the biggest challenge a lot of times is like, that's what I say is like, man, I feel really good right now. And it's like, how can I be okay with that, right? And how can we just move ahead without like ingesting like all kinds of like pick-me-ups and you know, overdoing it with the whatever. And it's just like, it's just so hard to kind of keep in that frame of mind when you're training, because it just feels good. You just did a workout, and I always say like I know I'm in a good place when I may do a run early in the afternoon and be walking around at night and go and wonder like, wait, did I run today? Like, if you know that, like if that kind of stuff is happening, that's a good thing. Your body is just feeling, you know, like where it should be. It's not outside of the box, or it's not like feeling lazy, and you're not creating yourself into someone who trains, and then after training, you have to just kind of lay around all day because you're tired. You know, that's not the point, right?
No, but I mean, I think one of the hardest things though is that we, you know, and I think it's hard for people in general, is that we live in a society now where you feel like, I think you have to become part of X. You know, like there are so many different opportunities to label yourself as this. You know, I am this, I am that. You know, like it's like, I think a lot of people go through, like jump through or jump back and forth between different like identity crisis, honestly, because like, and they do this with training, right? It's like, well, you know, I talked to an athlete last week that's like, I tried the high intensity, that didn't work. I tried the super slow stuff, that didn't work. And I was like, yeah, well, that's because you need like a little bit of both, you know, like that's kind of why, like, I did kind of I had a little chuckle listening to the challenge Miami broadcast because they were like, Lionel Sanders is the most methodical. I was like, are you serious? Like, I kind of feel, I almost fell into my bed. I was like, I mean, the guy's a great athlete, but he is not methodical. He's changed his training like 7 billion times over the course of like the last, like, I don't know, 2.5 months. But people like we gravitate towards, I have to be this, I have to be that. It's like, I have to be, I'm vegan, or I'm whole food, or I'm, low carb, high fat, or I'm this. I'm like, what are you? I'm like, I don't know. I just kind of eat whatever I want to most of the time and try to be healthy about it. Like, that's my lifestyle. Like, it's not like I had pizza last night, I had a long ride today. And, that's kind of, you can be just, I don't know, like, I'd rather be put like, I want to be on the common sense team. Like, I want to be on the common sense category, like, and not be like, I'm this, but that's where we go.
Lonely, bro.
And people with, I know, but it's true. Like, I know, like, you have to be this. And like, I grew up like that in terms, not the common sense way, but, I grew up Southern, Church of Christ. It was like, you have to do this, you have to do that. You have to fit the mold. You have to look like this. And I wasn't a huge rebellious kid. I was just kind of like, I don't really want to do that. Like, it's like in order to make something of yourself, Robbie, you're going to have to wear a tie, and you need to shave your face, and you need to have a college degree, and you need to act this way. And I'm like, I'm not really feeling like that. Like, that's not really my thing. Well, then you better get used to, always doing this. And I'm like, well, you know what? Turned out okay. And I still don't know how to wear a tie, a tie. But it's hard, right? It's hard because you listen. And I think it's okay to have a taste, right? Of like, because I think that's healthy, like to experiment, like, you and I, tried going vegan for like 2 seconds. We're like, figure we might as well try it out and see what it's like. Wasn't for me, not saying there's anything wrong with it, it's just not for me. We both relapsed on a ribeye, at Firebirds. But it's like, so I think it's fine to take a taste, right, of different things and listen and be open to different people and different training. Like, as coaches, you have to listen to what other people say, or what new sciences or what other things are going on, like in the coaching world. It doesn't mean you totally strip down everything that you know about coaching and jump full on to this new age, whatever, because that's also not true. Like, because here's the thing about with anything new, you don't know, right? Because what you really have to do is think, how are things going to really turn out long term? Because and they've done this, like the data behind, all these different kind of, nutrition and fueling things, that the more they've kind of got into, like, oh, well, that's actually like, it might be good for you in the short term, but long term, that's actually kind of not good, for you from a performance standpoint. So you always can't, I'm the first adopter. Well, you know what? Congrats. You can be the first one to figure out how great or how terrible it is. I'm just going to kind of keep going with that, with what I know. So you have to be on a taste. You need to go gorge yourself on totally reinventing the wheel, which is what so many athletes do. They want to reinvent the wheel all the time, but it's boredom, right? We are so easily bored as people now. We need something, because honestly, like, there's nothing really more terrifying than sitting with your own thoughts for like 10 minutes, like without, having something else. You're like, I'm gonna scroll through Instagram and see what else this person's eating today. Yeah. And then like you quit thinking about it. So it's hard.
The deck is stacked.
The deck is stacked. It is, but it doesn't mean that it's impossible to stick with it, and I think those that stick with it for the longest term, those are the ones who see the best results, because they've been doing it for not just months, but years, and that's the heart. Like, you look at the best athletes in the world, like, they've been doing it for the same thing for years and years and years and years. They don't they're not the ones blindfolded swinging at a pinata at the next new thing or making these drastic changes. They kind of always seem like they're doing the same shit. And you're like, what? You've got to have some secret sauce behind the scenes you're not showing us or telling us about. And then you're like, oh, well, your secret is that you don't have a secret, and you just kind of keep doing the same thing over and over again, while the rest of the world has been trying to figure out what you're doing in secret and changing things up. You've been like, I'm just in cruise control doing the same thing I've been doing for the last 5 or 10 years.
Right. I think we'd be remiss on this.
I know where you're going.
Timely podcast, this informative news podcast, if we did not talk about Ironman Texas being delayed yet again.
Yeah, we should. It was, listen.
Look,
my first.
I know why you don't want to go there, because you're afraid.
Yeah, I'm afraid of what you're going to say. My first bone to pick with the entire situation is, one, they always release these things after hours. Okay, so I've done working for the day. It's 6 o'clock, and all of a sudden I'm settling on the couch to watch, Paw Patrol with Hayden, and all of a sudden I get 19,000 text messages. I'm like, of course, here I go, back on the clock again. And then that's what you do. You're a coach. You're 24/7. My other bone to pick.
Come on, I'm the nighttime guy. You got to come to me.
I know, but still, my other bone to pick is that every single one that they have canceled or postponed, I have within hours just finished like the next week of workouts. So like yesterday, the only set of workouts I really addressed for the following week was people who were like really getting close to like the race. I want them to see, especially if they're in a big block like Ironman training, I want them to see what they have. They have to get prepared. Some people have to organize even like a babysitter or something that they're like a really long ride. So it's easy for them to plan. So I did almost everyone's plan for the next week. Boom, canceled. And you're like, motherfuckers, like, I swear every time I do this, like, y'all got to get me like there. They have like a screen, a back end screen on, Training Peaks. I won't lie. Like, I was surprised that they canceled it. A couple reasons. One, I was surprised it got canceled this far out, to be honest with you. And I saw someone else post, I guess they announced the postponement on the same date this last year, which I think is a good thing, right? Athletes' biggest complaint is you're not telling us far enough in advance. Things are changing. I'm not shocked though, because we have a lot of athletes in that area, and they have always said that Harris County was going to be the needle and the one that's going to prevent things. And I talked to a lot of them yesterday. We have like 4 or 5 just in the Houston area, and they said, This is a kind of a political. This is more of a political thing. It's kind of like an FU to the governor or somebody else. That's like, but that's from if you're a triathlete and you're looking at Ironman distance racing, like they're going to have, I think, a harder time going on here the next 2 to 3 months before June, really, because of the length of the course, because it's going to, a lot of times it's going to have to go through multiple counties. So they're going to have to get a sign off on multiple ways. So I did think it was surprising, not shocking, just from what I heard from athletes that are kind of there on the ground. They also said that more than likely if the old course, because I think the old course went through predominantly in Montgomery County, if it had been through just Montgomery, it would have been done. Like, it would have been done. It would have been fine. They were surprised that they weren't able to find a alternate course that would have gone through Montgomery that would have gotten approved. And I think that, one of the reasons they changed the old course from Montgomery to Harris County was because Montgomery County was like, we don't want it anymore. So I think it's got something to do with it as well. I also don't, but I will say, they did say that they were looking to, thankfully, like the one thing I took from their announcement that I thought was positive was like they were looking to have the race back in the Woodlands in October. Thinking, that doesn't sound like bad. October in the Woodlands actually sounds pretty awesome. It wasn't, we'll try and go to Waco. I think Waco was gone. I don't think you're ever going to see an Ironman event back in Waco again. Thankfully, because if you've been in that town, it can fit all of 17 people, like the Baylor basketball team, and that's about it. So I'm glad they didn't shove it to, hey, we're going to have it in Waco. It is super disappointing. I know, like, if you're an athlete, they haven't, I don't think, given out deferral options. I don't think that they're honestly going to have any deferral options, which I think is something that they're kind of going to be in a pickle about, because they've had to defer so many different races. Races are sold out. They're capped. They can't be like, hey, we'll defer you into this. They can't even defer you into Texas, as far as I know. And I think they're supposed to, give deferral options. Or if they are, I would assume they're going to give them the next week. But I don't even think they can defer people into Galveston 70.3, which is the one that I'm signed up for a few weeks later. And I will say, if you're in charge, if you work for an Ironman, you're in charge of the emails. Easy on the trigger, because last night I texted you the screenshot. They had announced all these. The Texas was postponed. Ironman Texas was postponed, not canceled, postponed. And then within like 30 minutes, I got an email, Ironman Texas 10.3 update. I'm like, you got to be kidding me right now. But it was like, hey, we're still on track. And you can expect the athlete guide to be out on March, which is March 18th. It was all positive. And my heart like skipped a beat. I was like, come on, like just a little too soon. Like,
yeah, right.
Tomorrow, like don't pull the trigger. So, I think but I also think to the other end of it, don't read in too much to that race being postponed. If you're doing St. George, you're doing Haines City in Florida, even if you're doing Galveston, totally different county, totally different circumstance. Like that, I think that's the hard part for us all to kind of wrap our brain around, is that nothing is uniform anymore. It's going to have to be approved or disapproved. I think from what I understand from people that are close in town, like, they're like, I think you have much less to worry about in the city of Galveston with things going on. And I was like, well, thank goodness, but that's what I thought last time. And I got to, I'm halfway down there and I got to turn back around. Haines City is the same. I think St. George is the same. So, don't make it, don't jump to conclusion, I think, which I think a lot of people probably do and think, oh, well, that's really bad news for all races. It's not. It's going to be a very race to the city or even the county, as we just saw a specific decision that they're making. I think obviously it's frustrating that, Ironman is kind of at which again, we talked about this on Monday in terms of challenge. It was like, that's why they got a good thing going, because it's not a county thing. They kept it on private property. They don't have to get county permits to do this. They keep it local. And it's also in the state of Florida. So like they keep it local. They keep it contained. They got that going for them. Whereas Ironman is kind of at the mercy of not just one or two decision makers, but like who the hell wants anybody political making a decision for them right now?
Yeah.
On any end. It's just like, you just kind of at the mercy, and it's unfortunate for athletes that have been training for a race and it's got, pushed back twice. But, I'll tell you what I told athletes that we work with is like, it sucks. It sucks. Take the rest of the week, do whatever the hell you want to do. Do whatever you want to, relax or keep training, whatever you want to. And then we'll kind of circle back next week and reevaluate, where we go, hopefully get a race date. And then you got 70.3s. Most other athletes have races that are coming. I think the biggest kind of downer for a lot of them was like, hey, I was really looking forward to not training in the dead heat of the entire year. Which is going to be, the downer for a lot of them.
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, if you're doing that, you just got to do it appropriately, I guess. But, it's great that Challenge Miami has like a contained, track or whatever that they're going to race on. I mean, but like, how far can we pull that in? Next thing you know, we'll be racing in basements and, whatever. But
I'm just racing basements of the virtual racing.
But no, seriously, I don't understand like how it's just so weird to me. Like what if like they did redesign the course and it went 95% of it was in Montgomery, and then like a few miles was in Harris. Would they just shut it down that way too or whatever? It's like, I'm sitting here watching, and I talked about it openly in the beginning about the fans going into the March Madness games and stuff like that. Now allegedly they're allowing 25% of the fans or the arena capacity for these games. And that's indoors, people inside. And if you ever watch these games, it's like, yeah, they're all sitting right next to each other anyway, so whatever. But like, I just don't understand how having 2,000 people on an open road riding a bike is in any way like a danger. And if somebody can explain that to me, I'd be happy.
I don't think from the few people that we have that we train, that we work with, the ones that are racing and not racing, they believe that, while that county, I think, has had some higher numbers, they think it was more of a political, like, FU in Ironman.
Well, can we just stop that?
Yeah. If you can put a stop to the political FUs that people have been getting for, like, the last, 50 or 60 years, I'll nominate Mike Torelli for the Nobel Peace Prize.
Well, I'll think about it.
Think about that while you're thinking about your bracket. We hope you make a bracket. We hope you have fun. Enjoy your March Madness. Enjoy this podcast. We're releasing on Thursday. We did it a day early because you know what? You're probably going to be consumed with March Madness, hopefully enjoying team sports and enjoying your triathlon racing as well. Hope you enjoyed it. If you haven't been or need to go back or just, need a refresher, go to our website, c26triathlon.com. It's our one-stop shop for all things coaching, camps, and community. We also have our ongoing club membership. You can click on the coaching tab, go down a few spots on there. Click on it, more info as well. We also will be highlighting a few new coaches on our website here coming up, so be on the lookout for that. Mike's taking on athletes. He is at crushingiron@gmail.com. If you have any questions, comments, concerns for me, I'm at c26coach@gmail.com. I think that's all I got today.
That's it?
Yeah, that's all I got. We'll do another coffee review on Monday.
Oh, yeah. I had a taste of a new coffee, but I can't remember the name of it.
Well,
so
that's not a very good plug.
So go out and try. It's really good. It's really good. I'm not sure where it's from or the name of it yet, but just give it a shot. All right, buddy. Well, I guess that's it.